All right, booktubers, new year, new books, new everything. Graham Bradley here. I stopped recording these videos on Facebook because their software was kind of crapping out and making my videos all blurry and stuff. So I'm doing these at home. I'll just upload them straight to YouTube and share the link. This week's book is by Martine Leavitt, and it's called Calvin. As you can see by the cover, it riffs pretty heavily on Calvin and Hobbes by the acclaimed cartoonist Bill Watterson. Let me see if I can see. Nope, other hand. Right there is my complete Calvin and Hobbes collection in my library. A huge part of my childhood for all 10 years that it was running. And I've been fascinated by Bill Watterson himself, being such a staunch believer in his own work that he kind of shuns interviews, he doesn't merchandise, he doesn't sell out or anything like that. If people want to ask him about the work, he just points to the work and says, look, whatever you want to extrapolate from what I was saying about it, boom, it's there. I very much admire that, especially as an up-and-coming guy myself. But I heard about Martine Leavitt's book last year. It was a finalist for a Whitney Award, and that was the first place that I came in contact with it. And it's about a kid named Calvin who is a schizophrenic, and he starts to see Hobbes, the tiger. The kid was born on the last day that the comic strip circulated. He's been all about it since his childhood, and he even had a stuffed tiger that his grandpa gave him, and so it very much shaped his childhood. And then when he gets this schizophrenia diagnosis and starts seeing Hobbes everywhere, he gets this idea in his head that if he goes to meet Bill Watterson personally and has Bill Watterson draw a comic strip with just Calvin and not Hobbes, then that'll set this Calvin's universe all right. That's what you'll get from the cover flap description and everything, but I was pleased to see that wasn't all to it when I read the story. It's written in a kind of unconventional format. It's written as an English project that Calvin is writing to his teacher, and there are dialogue tags as if it were a stage script saying, I said this, Susie said this, etc., etc. But it is almost more a story about two teenagers trying to cross Lake Erie when it's frozen in the winter, because the characters are in Canada and Cleveland is right across the lake, which is like 50 or 60 miles, but it's shallow enough that it freezes over hard in the winter. And you learn little tidbits about the ecology of the lake and stuff that people throw out there and everything, just enough to keep that side of it interesting. But there's a much more emotional undercurrent to the story as Calvin tries to cope with this mental diagnosis that he has, and his friend, who is named Susie, like the girl in the comics, is there to help him, on this journey. And even though she doesn't necessarily believe in what he thinks his solution is, there's a reason why she comes along to help. I was enjoying it pretty thoroughly all the way throughout. I started out and was like, okay, this will be an easy 3-star book, and then it became, a 4-star book. And just as the last couple of chapters boiled down, I was like, this is worth all 5 stars. So I recommend checking it out. It's not a very long book either, so it's not like you got to slog through a whole lot. It's very lean. You get the important parts, and there's a very real kind of magic to it, and some important life lessons learned from it. I would give it to anybody of all ages. It's very enjoyable, and especially if you're familiar with the source material, with the Calvin and Hobbes comic, it'll resonate with you a lot more. So check that one out. Martine Leavitt, Calvin, that's the book for this week. Happy reading out there. Let me know what you guys are doing, and I'll talk to you next Thursday. Peace.